What was the worst thing someone told you after you recovered from a coma? I woke up in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and fear, and the first thing I heard was my fiance's mother saying in a hushed voice, "We should plan the wedding without waiting for her to be herself again. She might never be the same mentally, and Michael deserves to move forward with his life." I couldn't move anything except my eyes, couldn't speak or signal that I was conscious and understanding every single word. My name is Dr. Sofia Castellano, and before the accident that put me in a coma for 8 weeks, I had a PhD in cognitive neuroscience from MIT and held the North American record for memory competitions. I could memorize a shuffled deck of cards in under 30 seconds and recall lists of 500 random digits after hearing them once. My research focused on consciousness and brain plasticity, and the irony of ending up in a coma wasn't lost on me once I finally processed what had happened. The accident itself was stupid and preventable. A drunk driver ran a red light while I was crossing the street near my lab, and I'd been thrown 15 feet into a concrete barrier. The impact caused severe traumatic brain injury with bleeding and swelling that required 2 emergency surgeries. I'd been in a medically induced coma for the first 3 weeks while my brain healed, and then remained in what doctors called a minimally conscious state for another 5 weeks. During that time, I could hear everything happening around me, but my body wouldn't respond to commands, and I couldn't communicate in any way that registered on their tests. The neurologist told my family I might never wake up fully, and if I did, there was a high probability of permanent cognitive impairment. Michael's family had taken that information and apparently decided to start making plans that assumed I'd be a vegetable forever. I could hear them visiting my room every few days, discussing wedding venues and guest lists and whether they should just go ahead without me being mentally present. What they didn't know was that my brain was recording every conversation with perfect clarity. One of the strange effects of my particular type of injury was that while I couldn't move or speak, my memory formation was not only intact but somehow enhanced. Every word spoken near my bed got stored in my mind with timestamp precision, every detail of who said what and when. Michael's mother, Patricia, was the worst. She'd sit next to my bed and talk to Michael about how this was probably for the best in the long run, that I'd been too focused on my career anyway, and maybe this was God's way of making me a better wife. She suggested they could move the wedding up to next month instead of waiting until fall, and that way Michael wouldn't have to deal with the uncertainty of my recovery timeline. Michael himself was quieter during these conversations, occasionally protesting weakly that they should wait and see, but never actually shutting down his mother's planning. That hurt worse than any physical pain from my injuries. The medical team had no idea I was conscious during those weeks because all their standard tests showed minimal brain activity. They'd shine lights in my eyes and pinch my arms and call my name, and I'd desperately try to respond, but nothing would happen. My body was completely disconnected from my intentions, trapped in this prison while my mind screamed to be heard. The neurologist, Dr. Raymond Kwan, was the only one who seemed uncertain about my prognosis. He'd run additional tests that weren't standard protocol, checking for subtle signs of awareness that the other doctors dismissed as reflexive responses. During one of his examinations, he spoke directly to me even though everyone else thought I couldn't hear. He said that if I could understand him, I should know that some coma patients retain full consciousness and that he was watching for any signs I might be one of them. That small acknowledgement that I might be in here made me feel less completely alone. 6 weeks into the coma, Patricia brought a wedding planner to my hospital room. They stood at the foot of my bed discussing flower arrangements and seating charts while I lay there unable to scream at them to get out. The planner asked uncomfortable questions about whether I'd be attending the wedding or if they should plan around my absence, and Patricia said confidently that even if I woke up, I probably wouldn't be capable of participating in any meaningful way. She told the planner that Michael and I had been engaged for 2 years, and she wasn't going to let her son's life get put on hold indefinitely because of my accident. The planner looked uncomfortable but took notes anyway, and they spent 45 minutes planning a wedding that was supposedly mine, but that I had zero input on. I memorized every single detail they discussed, every vendor name and price point and decision, storing it all away with perfect clarity, while they assumed I was essentially brain dead. The breakthrough came during week 7 when Dr. Kwan tried a new assessment technique he'd read about in recent research. He asked me yes or no questions and told me to try imagining playing tennis for yes and imagining walking through my house for no. Those specific mental images create distinct patterns in brain activity that can be detected on functional MRI scans even when a patient can't physically respond. I focused with everything I had on imagining tennis when he asked if I could hear him, visualizing every detail of swinging a racket and running across a court. The fMRI lit up exactly the way it should for a conscious patient, and Dr. Kwan's face transformed from clinical interest to barely contained excitement. He ran the test 3 more times with different questions, and each time I produced the correct response pattern. He told my family immediately that I was conscious and aware, that I'd been hearing everything this entire time, and they needed to be very careful about what they said around me. But what happened next changed everything. Full story is linked below or on my channel.